was 27 years old and 1 year shy of graduating from medical school. My sister and I split the cost of my daddy's funeral. We had taken out an insurance policy on him because he was living on the edge. And about a year before he got lung and liver cancer, we decided he was one of those people who was just going to live forever, so we stopped paying the insurance. And when he died, it was up to us to give him a proper funeral. There was no inheritance to be had, and no life insurance, no safety net. So 2 young daughters pooled their pitiful resources and gave Daddy a proper funeral. It was during a year of the worst heart sickness I ever remember experiencing. I was going through a divorce, I was losing my way, and now I was losing my dad. It was one of those times where you wish you had somebody strong to lead you through the heartache. But I guess since he had never been that for us, he was probably not going to start doing it at his funeral. After Daddy died, I finally had a coming apart from a childhood of wounds. I went to see a psychiatrist, and I started telling him the stories from my childhood, and he never really said anything. His eyes were just like 2 big saucers. Seemed like he really didn't know what to say, could hardly believe what I was telling him. I told him about the time that I drove a stick shift home from the honky-tonk when Daddy was too drunk to drive. I was 10 years old at the time. I told him about the visits to Brushy Mountain Prison that we made on Saturdays to visit my cousin who was incarcerated. I told him about the sexual abuse and the neglect and the poverty and the addiction. I told him about my cousin who hung himself in his front yard after a long battle with drugs and alcohol. And that only begins to scratch the surface of the heartache. The years of watching Daddy battle his demons, the rampant disregard for the well-being of us children, the poverty, the neglect, it all did something permanent to my heart. And I was sure I would never get over it. And if I could hear your story today, you probably have a similar story. If your childhood wasn't as bad as mine, you woke up one day and things fell apart. Your marriage fell apart, your finances fell apart, you lost somebody that you love, you were betrayed, hurt, neglected, left out. Or maybe, like me, you started to have heartache from the pain that you were causing other people too. It wasn't until I started reading memoirs that I realized we're pretty much just all the same. The question I have for us is exactly the question that my dear friend Jamie has. What will we do with the suffering? For years, I made the suffering of my childhood mean that I wasn't enough, that I wasn't loved or valued, and I began to achieve everything I could possibly achieve in my life so that people would love me. I made good grades, I made the honor roll, I never gave anybody any trouble, I excelled at all the sports, I managed to get nominated for homecoming queen and we couldn't even afford a dress. I went to college, I was the first person in my family to go to college, I went to medical school, I was running so fast from the demon that was chasing me saying, you're not enough, you're not loved, you're not worthy. That is what I brought from my childhood. I spent 40 years doing everything in my power to measure up to some impossible standard in my head. And I let the wounds of my childhood play like a soundtrack. And I played it a lot. It's all honky-tonk music, in case you don't know me well. Yesterday, we were in the gym, and it was my birthday. By the way, thank you for coming to my birthday party today. When I was 30 years old, by the way, when you grow up in a childhood like me, there are really no birthdays to speak of, by the way. And so you try to make the birthday as you get older mean everything because it never meant anything, you know? And I remember when I turned 30, I had just met Stevie, and I was living in Johnson City. So I was living two hours away from my family, and I was for sure that since it was like my 30th birthday, that there's gonna be some crazy surprise party. Have any of you ever waited for your own party? Like, I know it's coming. I'm sure there are gonna be balloons. I'm gonna turn around this corner of the hospital. There's gonna be balloons. I literally walked around every corner of the hospital that day thinking, it'll just be any second, and it's gonna be the surprise party, any second. I got off from work, no balloons. Nobody had remembered my birthday yet. My mama hadn't called. My poor sister was like trying to raise 3 baby children. I don't know. Nobody remembered. So I kept thinking, I'm sure they're all waiting at my house when I get home. I'm sure there's like a bunch of balloons and there's cake. Of course, there's cake. All day I did this until 9 o'clock that night, and I thought, they're going to have to get on with this. Like, if they're trying to surprise me right now, they're going to have to hurry because Granny's got to go to bed. No party. And here's the thing. Here's what I've learned through a lot of heartache. You can make that mean whatever you want. You can make your childhood mean what you want. You can make what somebody said to you this morning mean what you want. You have the power to make it mean what you want. And for 40 years, I made it mean I'm unlovable, I'm not good enough, so I just better keep striving to prove to everybody that I'm okay. What I want to share with you today is that some of you are stuck on that same song. You are holding on for dear life to some message from the past. You're holding on to it for dear life. It's playing like a soundtrack in your head. The past exists only in your mind. Let me say that again. The past exists only in your mind. It's gone now. It's done for. So whatever wounds that you are still holding on to, whatever resentments, whatever grudges, whatever's keeping you stuck in your current life from things that happened to you before, you are currently causing it. Because you are currently playing it over like a soundtrack in your mind. And it only exists here to you, which means that the pain that it's causing you now is pain that you are choosing to cause yourself. When I wrote my memoir, I always wondered what it would be like when I finally went crazy, so I wrote, a few chapters about that. When I wrote my memoir, one of the biggest lessons that I learned from that is that all of those memories, all of that heartache, stays alive and well as long as I keep it alive and well. And when I decide to do what Jamie says and turn around, I have the power to stop it. Some of you are constantly thinking about things in the past. You're holding grudges, resentments, you're holding on to wounds, You rehearse over and over what people said to you that hurt you. I've been such a pro at it in my life that I can tell my childhood stories with my eyes closed. I've told them so many times, mostly to myself. Today is the day that I want you to make it mean something different. I want you to go treasure hunting in your past. This is what I learned from writing about my past. If I focus on all the ways that people rejected me and didn't love me and didn't choose me and didn't want me, if I go looking in my past for that, I can find it all day long. I can tell you 150 stories. I can convince you that I had one of the worst childhoods in this room. Yay for me, right? But let me tell you something else that's true. Here's what I have decided to make my past mean. God gave me exactly the parents and exactly the life that I needed to prepare me for the amazing life I get to live today. He knew that I would have a job to do and people to serve, so he designed the perfect training ground. He gave me the perfect life. My past has been the greatest gift of my life. When I began to rewrite my story, to go treasure hunting in my past for all the gifts there, here's what I found. At every single turn, God was rescuing me, sending me people who loved me, sending me people who chose me, who took care of me, who made a way for me. When I was in kindergarten, it was Miss Murphy. She was the first person who ever read a book to me. When I was in middle school, it was Coach Mosier. He was like a father to me and bought my basketball shoes and took me to every ball game. When I was in high school, it was Brother Cross, who was my youth pastor. Picked me up for church every time. Not to mention my mama and my sister and my brother. Everywhere I turned in my life were people who loved me and protected me. But in my stubbornness and pain, I wanted to hold on to the people who didn't. Some of you are holding on to resentments today that you need to let go of. You're convinced that whoever wronged you is hurting you, but here's what I want to convince you of. You are hurting yourself by holding on to it. You're so steeped in the wounds and so steeped in the negativity of your past. Angry, bitter, resentful. You feel like a victim. You feel unloved. You feel rejected. I promise you that you are doing it to yourself. That person no longer has the power over you. Those things are in the past, and you are currently rejecting yourself if you continue to let it have power over you today. Some of you are so good at doing this that you're going to find a reason in this room full of people who are full of love and light, you're going to find a reason to be rejected today. Because you are always looking to confirm what your past told you. Let me tell you something. If you look around for ways to be offended, guess what you get to be? Offended all day, every day. If you're looking around for reasons to be rejected, guess what you get to be all day, every day? Rejected. But when you start treasure hunting in your past, and if you go treasure hunting in this room and you look for people who are loving you and choosing you, you will find them all day long. And it's a choice you get to make, and you get to make it every single day. Jamie asked you the wound from your childhood that you've been believing. A lot of times it's some sort of rejection. So what we do with that message is our brain likes to prove us right. So if you tell your brain that you're rejected, it's going to go looking for evidence of it everywhere. And you're going to find it all over the place, all the time. So my question for you today is that what you want in 2019? Do you want to continue to find reasons to be unloved, rejected, wounded, victimized? Because it's within your power to choose. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to mark this day on your calendar as the day you chose healing, the day you chose love, the day you went treasure hunting in your past for all the gifts that are there, the day that you chose a better message, the day that you made it mean something that actually helps you in your life. Some of you are in a cycle, in this negative loop cycle, and you continue to look for evidence to prove that you're right, and you continue to find evidence over and over again that you're right. You're defining yourself by your wounds, you're defining yourself by your past, and you will never, ever have the life you want if you continue to choose that. Your past was full of pain and heartache. Well, guess what? You're in good company. Life is hard for all of us. Welcome to being human. We can argue with our past and wish it were different. I can't tell you how many times I dreamed about what it would be like to have the perfect dad and the perfect family, to sit around a table together and actually have dinner together as a family. Newsflash, I live that life right now. You know what it's like to sit around dinner with your family and eat together? It's not that great anyways, right? I'm like currently living the life that I always wished for, and I'm like, why? I gotta cook all the food, and then I gotta clean it up, and then what if instead of arguing with your past, what if you could decide that your past was perfect? What if you could decide that you had the perfect dad? What if you could decide that your past gave you every single tool you needed to live your life today? How would that change how you walk into 2019? What if what has happened to you is exactly what you needed to prepare you for the calling on your life? Because I promise you, it is, and it was. I want you to try that thought on. Some of you are holding on to resentments to one certain person. That's kind of what I did. I want you to try a new thought on. What if you forgave? What if you loved? What if you saw that circumstance as a gift from God? Because that is exactly what it is. How would it change how you live your life today? How would it change how you show up in your marriage? How would it change how you show up at your job? How would it change how you show up to your children? Some of your children are right now living a curse that you have set forth because you won't let go of the past. I don't want that for my kids. I want them to learn how to live from possibility. I want them to learn how to run towards something and not away from something. I don't want to perpetuate the cycle that I grew up in. Your life has been exactly what you needed. You're exactly where you're supposed to be with exactly the people you're supposed to be with. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you embrace that and realize what a gift it is, the sooner you can really step into your purpose and be the person that you were created to be. When I think about my past now, I feel like a superhero. When I look at my past, I think, oh my gosh, that was amazing stuff you got through. That was an amazing life. What crazy stories. What a gift you've been given. It makes me feel a little like Wonder Woman. It makes me feel strong. It makes me feel like I can handle anything my life throws at me. I take all the energy that I used to use feeling sorry for myself, and I use it to help other people. I have let my pain be transformed into a beautiful gift that I try to give the world. The past is over. And if you continue to let it haunt you, it's because you choose to do it in your own mind. And if you choose to see it as the amazing gift that it is, ask God to help you love your past, the people in your past. Teach yourself how to be grateful for it by practicing gratitude. And I have these exact words on my notes. Jamie and I are like soul sisters. And turn your actual body around and walk the other way. The future is waiting, and it's full of potential. Literally, anything is possible. The life you currently have is either a result of you creating it from your past or creating it from your future. Here's how I know if you're creating it from your past. I'm never really going to lose this weight. I've always been overweight. I'm never really going to get out of debt. I'm not good with money. I'm not the type of person who could start an exercise program. Nobody in my family's ever been able to do anything like that. I will hear it today. I'm so tuned in to listening to people's limitations that they put on themselves. And let me tell you something really, really true about limitations. We like to argue for them. We like to tell the universe all the things that we can't do and all the things that aren't possible. When you do that, your brain is actually listening to you and it believes you. So when you argue for it, you get to keep it. And you're the one who gets to choose. You can rewrite the story of your life to mean whatever you want it to mean. There's only one thing you can fix in your past, and that's the way you think about it. 2018 has been the best year of my life to date. Blessing upon blessing, grace upon grace, amazing things happening that I never thought possible. I have a wonderful, supportive husband. I have 9 kids that are incredible. Taylor graduated from medical school. Katie graduated from nurse practitioner school. I hit the second highest rank in Young Living. We traveled to Hawaii. We took a trip out west with our family. Had the best year in my health, in my business. I hired a publisher to begin my second book. Life is pretty grand. But last weekend, the little foster guy that we have, Thomas, we picked him up on a Friday, and his great-grandmother, who has custody of him and takes care of him, did not look well at all. I was putting Thomas to bed the next night, and I got a call that she had gone into cardiac arrest and would probably not make it through the night. So I rushed to the hospital, watched her lay there lifeless, watched her family all pile into the ER. Over the next few days, she was on a ventilator. She had a do not resuscitate order, so they had said if she didn't recover by Monday, they were going to pull all the tubes. So I'm sitting here with a 6-year-old and the only mother that he's ever known, besides me, about to die. I cried most of Sunday. I tried to figure out how to tell a 6-year-old that he was going to have yet another round of loss in his life. Thomas was born addicted to methamphetamine. and he's had a really rough life. I was half afraid that DCS was going to show up at our door and take him from us. I wasn't sure if the papers that we had were going to be enough, that they would let him stay with us. I was up most of the night, Sunday night, praying and trying to figure out how to tell a little boy that his life was about to change forever. Got a call on Monday morning that she was trying to fight. By Tuesday, Thomas and I were sitting in the hospital waiting room, and I was waiting to go back to see her. She fought like crazy for that little boy. She was extubated, started breathing on her own, sitting up in bed, nothing but a miracle from God. And I say all that to say there's never going to be a point in your life where things are smooth. Your past has been the perfect training ground because that is just life. I have everything I could possibly want, and I have more heartache in my life than I've probably ever had. Because that's what it means to be human, and that's what it means to wake up to your life and live your life for other people and carry as many burdens for other people as you can. When you begin to step into your purpose and live the life you are capable of living, more will be asked of you. The burdens will be heavier. The world is burning. It's on fire. And you are one of the people that God is calling to run into it, not away from it. But you can't do that if you won't give up your resentments, your addictions, your distractions, your fears, your wounds, whatever keeps you stuck, whatever is holding you back. You were made for more. More love, more responsibility, more discipline, more giving, more surrendering, more forgiving, more serving, more gratitude, more peace, more laying down your life for the people you love. We are waiting for you to turn around to your past and say no, and turn around to the people in your life who need you today and say yes. We need you to do the hard work that it takes to do that. We need you to be ready to fight for the people in your life who need you. We need you to be ready, as Jordan Peterson says, to pick up the heaviest burden you can bear. You can't do that if you're carrying a heavy weight from your past. It's as easy as you deciding that the time is now. Today is the day. This is the year. No more clinging to old hurts, old grudges, old grievances. Accept what is and what has been and decide that you will create your future from what could be. Frederick Buechner is one of my favorite writers. He has some of my favorite quotes. He says, "Here is the world. Beautiful and terrible things will happen. Do not be afraid." He also says, "Compassion is the sometimes fatal capacity for feeling what it's like to live inside somebody else's skin. It's the knowledge that there can never really be any peace and joy for me until there is peace and joy finally for you too." Your past has been the best gift, the best training ground. It's prepared you exactly for today. Practice saying thank you for everything that has happened to you. It has given you the most unique opportunity to serve the people in your life in only the way you can. Your past is a gift if you choose to see it that way. I'm going to close with a quote from Marianne Williamson. I love this quote so much. You are a child of God. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is in us. And as we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. Go treasure hunting in your past today. Figure out what you're holding on to that is going to keep you stuck, and let it go. We're going to take a little inventory. Derek, can you put on the last, in my first set of slides, you need your notebooks out for this part. In my first set of slides, there's a slide that says like spiritual and Sabbath, and then there's a bunch of them in a row. We're going to take inventory of your past right now. Your past year, your relationships, your marriage, your finances. We're going to use what you come up with in this section of the talk to set your goals later this afternoon. So this is going to be the perfect training ground for you to figure out the areas of your life that need the most work. We probably don't even have to do this exercise for you to figure out what needs the most work. But I want you to take these categories one at a time. There's 7 of them. You're going to give yourself a score in each category from 0 to 10. So the first category is your physical, mental, emotional self. Some of you have totally let your health go. Some of you, you're emotional wreck. You're totally living from the past. You're barely surviving. If this is you, give yourself a score in this category. Now listen, if you feel like, you know what, this past year, the last few months, I've really been doing amazing things with my health and fitness and with my emotional state and all of that. Be as honest with yourself as you can. When we get to the goal-setting portion of today, you're going to take the areas where you scored the lowest and use those to set your goals. So I want you to be honest. For most people, this is probably the area we let go. When my health crashed in 2013, it was because everything was too chaotic for me to keep up with myself. So if you let this area go, be honest, give yourself a score, and we're going to use this later. Next category. Next slide. Spiritual and Sabbath. I'm sorry. Yeah? Just 1 to 10. Yeah, 1 to 10. I'll tell you a little bit, a story about this one. Somebody asked me a few weeks ago what my secret was to, like, how do you keep doing what you're doing? How do you recharge? This is not a spiritual workshop. But let me tell you this. The most important thing I do every week is I file into a 150-year-old church, and I see the stained glass on both sides. It's nothing fancy. There's no screens. It's not fancy like this church. It's just an old 150-year-old church. And I file in that church with my family, and we sit there together, and the first thing we do in that church is we say a confession together. And we say, I have sinned against God and against my neighbor. I have not loved him with my whole heart. I haven't loved my neighbor as myself. That confession has changed my life. We say it out loud, and the person that I most have offended are the people sitting right beside me. The people that hear my confession are the people that I most offend. And that confession, and then later in that service, taking the Lord's Supper, hearing words of forgiveness, life-changing. Whatever you need to do to fill your tank back up, you cannot give of yourself if you don't take care of yourself. How do you rest? This could even include sleep. How do you rest? How do you recharge? Do you take time to fill the tank back up so that you have something to give to the people in your life. Number 3, financial. I told myself a lie for about 45 years that I wasn't good with money. Guess what happens in your life when you tell yourself 100 times a day that you're not good with money? Guess what you're not good with? Money. Your brain believes you. So I started reading money books, like people who are good with money. I'm like, what do people who are good with money do? Oh, they read money books. So I read like 5 books on money. I read The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. I read one of Dave Ramsey's books. I read a bunch of books on money, and I started telling myself something different. I started saying, I'm really smart with money. I'm really learning a lot about money. Guess what happened? I got smart with money and really learned a lot about money and started to make a lot more money because money likes to go where people who know what to do with it, right? So if this is an area of your life that you struggle with, it's probably because you tell yourself such a bad message about it. We've always been poor. My family was always poor. I'm bad with money. And we wear that like a badge of honor. I can confidently say, I am learning a lot about money, and I'm good with money. And if this is an area of your life that you struggle with, you need to start with the message you tell yourself about it. But if this is an area you need help with, don't delay, because this can cause so many personal problems and so many marriage problems. Next, marriage and family. This probably doesn't need any extra explanation, but let me just say this. When your relationships aren't right, nothing in your life is right. This is so important, you guys. So important to make this a priority. If your marriage is struggling, it's up to you to start the fixing. If your kids are struggling, your marriage is struggling, your family is struggling, you need to make this a priority. Nothing else in your life will matter. It doesn't matter if you get the best job and make the most money. If you lose the things that are most important to you, it won't matter. Next, work and purpose. Are you doing work that you love, that matters in the world? Are you contributing? Are you living the life you were meant to live? Are you using your gifts? This one is so easy to fix. Use your gifts. You can do it in any job you have. You don't have to have the perfect job. Because guess what happens when you go from your crappy job to your better job? Your crappy attitude goes with you. So until you fix your attitude about it, it doesn't matter what job you have. It's you that's the common denominator. Actually, it's you that's the common denominator in all of these categories. You're spending the money, you're neglecting the marriage, you're neglecting the health, right? I mean, so this is all about you. Okay, next. Environments. What does your car look like? Don't go look at mine right now, by the way. What does your house look like? Is your environment driving you crazy? Is it so cluttered and so chaotic that you can't think straight? Is this something that you need to fix so that your brain can think again? Your closet, your car, your house. And next, I think last, community and hobbies. Community is so important. That's why I love gathering us together in real community. It's so important. So think about the support systems you have. Think about the community that you have around you. Think about what you can do in your life that gives you pleasure, that gives you joy. So you're going to take these scores that you gave yourself. We're going to use them, I think, in workshop number 3 to set some amazing goals for the year. You guys, I promise you, if you will open your heart today, nothing in your life will be the same from this day forward. I want you to go treasure hunting in your past. I want you to look around today for evidence of love and grace and joy in the world. Because when you do that, guess what you find? Love and grace and joy. You find it everywhere when you start looking for it. You always have the life you want. So if you didn't have the 2018 that you wanted, it's because you didn't really want it to be better. You always have what you're looking for. You always have the life you want. You always find what you search for. So search for something different in 2019. Look for light, look for love, look for grace, look for hope. It's everywhere. All right, thank you. I don't know what's next. Something's next.